So far away, Lucas, you unfortunately can't be here in the office because you're celebrating your birthday. A sentence I don't know why I'm saying, because by the time this video goes out, that'll be a completely obsolete and irrelevant piece of information.
It will be, yes.
But nonetheless, you'll be 30 years old by the time this video goes out. And what are we talking about today?
We are talking about something that is coming to Disney Plus soon that I know very little about, and that is Moon Knight.
So far away, Lucas, as you alluded to, today we're talking about Moon Knight on this episode of Wiki Weekends. And as always, folks, you can find a link to the wiki we're referring to below. But do you have any affinity for this character or any knowledge about who they are and what they do?
Not particularly, no. I know a couple of things about Moon Knight is that he's called Moon Knight. People really like him.
Yes.
And he's got a really badass suit.
Yes. Well, the things that I know about Moon Knight is that he's one of the most requested episodes of Wiki Weekends, which long-time fans of the channel will know means we're never going to cover it unless someone related to the channel asks us to do it, which is what Lucas did today. So without further ado, Lucas, would you like to hear some basic information about Mr. Moon Knight?
I would love to learn about Mr. Moon Knight.
Well, first his name, Mark Spector, which is a pretty good name, isn't it, for a guy who's like going around dressed like a fucking ghost. Do you want a quote from Mr. Moon Knight? Because I think this one's pretty badass.
Hell yeah.
I don't wear white to hide myself. I wear it so they'll see me coming, so they'll know who it is. Because when they see the white, it doesn't matter how good a target I am. Their hands shake so bad they couldn't hit the moon.
He's the literal opposite of Batman. Batman doesn't want you to know where he is. Moon Knight wants you to know.
Yeah, he wants you to know exactly where he is, and he wants you to fire wildly in his general direction because he's not fucking scared. And that's similar in a way to the Punisher. Where the Punisher's big white skull. The reason he has the big white skull on his chest is to draw fire to the most heavily armoured part of his body. It's similar to Batman as well, where the bat symbol is on the most heavily armoured part of his body, so it draws the eye and thus fire from the enemy. Anyway, we have here, name, Mark Spector, current alias, Moon Knight, and then we have aliases. And are you ready for some fucking band names? It's been a while, my friend.
Yes.
Okay, so code names, Mr. Knight, nicknames, Casper, Knight of the Moons, Marky Mark, Mooney, Stupid Moon Man. Other aliases, Asset Prime. Asset Prime, the Cowled Avenger, the Crescent Crusader, the Crescent Wrench, the Fist of Khonshu, the Fist of Vengeance, the Fist of the Phoenix.
I'm presuming he got the Phoenix Force at some point then.
Everybody in comics has had the Phoenix Force at one point, Lucas. We have here Ian Waller, Jake Lockley, the Lunar Legionnaire.
Ooh.
That's a good one. I'd buy their album. I'd wear their t-shirt, I should add. The Moon Demon, the Moon Man, Sergeant Spectre, Sheetface, White Knight, and Yitzhak Topol. I need to know physical characteristics. See, I'm guessing a guy like Moon Knight must have some crazy, unusual features, and it just has a scar over his left eye.
Looks a lot like Oscar Isaac.
Looks a lot. Suspiciously like Solid Snake. And this perfectly highlights one of my major annoyances with movie studios and the people who do the casting for them. And it is that one thing will be popular and they will assume that it will be popular forever, even though that has never been the case for anything. And in Oscar Isaac's case, it's like, oh yeah, he's in Star Wars and Star Wars is popular, let's put him in everything. Even though the movie that we're going to make, like the Solid Snake movie, is not going to come out for like 5 years. And I call that the Game of Thrones effect. Because how many actors from Game of Thrones got put in massive tentpole movies that never went anywhere? Because Game of Thrones dropped off the face of the earth and was completely eradicated from the public pop culture consciousness. And then just the fact that those people weren't good actors anyway. And we're moving swiftly on. We have a section here titled Personality. And generally I like to cover these because when a character in one of these Wiki Weekends has a personality section, that's usually quite interesting because you have an insight into the character's motivations.
Well, as far as I'm aware, it seems quite interesting as well because in the trailer, at least on the Disney Plus TV show, it's like he seemingly doesn't know who he is. So I'm interested to know. Yeah,
my basic understanding of it is that Moon Knight has either a split personality or he's just he's Deadpool in that way. He's just completely insane. So we have here, Moon Knight can best be characterized by his relationship with Khonshu and whether that is derived from his own mental illness or from actual divine inspiration. So there it is.
Okay.
So he's a guy who's either mentally ill or communicating directly with a legendary spirit from another dimension. And it says here that when Mark Spector first awakened at the foot of Khonshu's statue, it was ambiguous whether his survival was truly Khonshu's doing or if Spector merely attributed it to the moon god. Later stories introduce Khonshu as an undeniably real god. Well, yeah, Thor is on postage stamps in that universe. So I always found that baffling, like in those universes where they have like actual divine beings walking around. Like Tony Stark has got a god on speed dial, and he's still described as like an atheist in some comics. Like, you know God.
They know a god, but in that universe it's framed as just, no, we were so powerful that they looked upon us as gods.
So how do they know that Jesus wasn't just a really strong mutant?
True, because like another Oscar Isaac character, Apocalypse, was a really strong mutant.
I forgot that he played that. Again, that just goes back to that thing we mentioned right at the start of like just how limited the pool of casting talent is in Hollywood. Of just get someone from Game of Thrones in. It's like, why don't you hire a new actor who's not had a chance yet? So it says here, presently it seems as if Mark Spector is both mentally ill and an agent of a higher power. Khonshu does exist and has chosen Mark as his avatar, but Mark's mental illness sometimes causes him to experience conversations with a Khonshu that exists only in his mind. And that is a very interesting concept for a TV show. Yeah, and I've not seen the trailer yet, so like you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Lucas, but is it going to be like a psychological thriller? Or is it going to be standard Marvel
That's the way the trailer makes it look like,
Which means it's not going to be. It's going to have a giant fight at the end that links into another MCU property, and it's going to have a very unsatisfying conclusion as a result.
Oh, the third act of Marvel, yeah.
Yeah, that has been every single Marvel TV show so far. Interesting idea, dropped at the last second so it can tie into a wider universe we don't care about. Right, unlike most superheroes, Moon Knight is willing to brutally hurt and maim his opponents. It says here that he once ripped a face off of an enemy and carves crescents onto his victims' foreheads. And here's the thing, like, I do have a hunger for superhero shows like that, like The Punisher, like Daredevil, where, like, you know, the brutality and the consequences of that brutality are shown.
Yeah.
And I like the way Marvel handled it in stuff like The Punisher, where, like, The Punisher gets as good as he gives. Like, there are moments in that show, I think, like, where The Punisher has a broken arm, and he's having to, like, aim his rifle with his broken hand. And, like, you know, the consequences of the violence are shown. Then you have stuff like Titans, where they brutally murder people every other episode, and they just smash cuts back to them in like Titans like manner, just having a good old time. It's like, you killed like 8 people last episode. Powers and abilities of Moon Knight, and looking at his power grid, which people don't know, he's a ranking system from 1 to 7, 7 being nigh omnipotent in that particular regard, and 1 being an average human. Moon Knight looks pretty average. Everything's a 2 or a 3, except for fighting skills, which is a 4. So he's a pretty competent fighter, but not amazing.
Yeah, he's not one of these godlike beings that we've covered in the past.
No, he's just a guy who's pretty good at fighting, who fucking hates crime, and has a pact with a moon goddess. We have here powers, enhanced brain function. After being brought back to life by the moon god, Khonshu. Not a goddess, a god. I don't know why I made that mistake, but I guess it's, I always see the moon as like a feminine entity. But apparently the Khonshu is like, you know, a god, not a goddess. It says, Mark's brain structure was fundamentally changed into being in brain-to-brain contact with a god. And he stated on multiple occasions that his brain was rebuilt as a god's weapon. Due to the changes in Mark's mind, he has displayed a unique resistance to telepathic attacks. For example, when a telepath once tried to enter Moon Knight's mind, they were instantly overwhelmed due to its supernatural nature. It says here that he has complete control over his mindscape. That's the word right there, and was able to attack and capture the telepath, leaving them catatonic in the real world. So the telepath broke into his mind, thinking this is where I can get him, didn't realize that Moon Knight has complete control over his like mental self, and then kicked the shit out of them in the imaginary world.
Does that mean that that person's like mind now has a crescent moon carved into it?
Oh, he beat them up in the Shadow Realm. Eat a dick. He would kick ass at Yu-Gi-Oh. So immortality. Moon Knight's pact with Khonshu granted him the advantages of immortality. He's been brought back to life on no less than 3 occasions, and they're all his powers, Lucas. His powers are, you can't read his mind and he's immortal. He does mention, though, that through the power of Khonshu, he is able to channel lunar strength, which increases at night under the right kind of moon. He is naturally stronger at night, but is most strong under the new moon.
Okay.
And he can lift over 1,000 pounds. And it says that his strength increases from each new moon to the point where he can lift 2 tons. And do you know what that says to me? There's going to be a lot of really bad fight scenes in this show set at night. Abilities. Over the course of his life as a boxer, US Marine mercenary and costume superhero, Mark Spector has become an expert at hand-to-hand combat. He is an Olympic-level athlete and a skilled gymnast.
Yeah, I genuinely thought he was more than a moon-powered Batman.
No, he's moon-powered Batman. He does chat a lot of shit, though, which is, I think, why he's one of the more requested characters for Wiki Weekends. Because there is that panel of him just chatting shit to Dracula, calling him a pussy. Speaking of Batman, he's also an expert on interrogation and being a detective. And I guess it's really easy to interrogate someone when it's like, I'll fucking kill you. It says he's a master marksman. He once sliced a bullet in half with a crescent disc. So not only is he a master marksman, he's also really good at branding.
He is.
Like, he sticks to branding, and then weapons master. He is adept with nearly every weapon ever invented, ranging from many types of swords, knives, batons, chains, brass knuckles, thrown projectiles such as shurikens, longbows, bolos, boomerangs, to use of all kinds of firearms, up to and including pistols, sniper rifles, assault rifles, submachine guns, grenade launchers, bazookas, and even electronic firing stations such as anti-aircraft guns.
Does it say that he's more proficient if they're in a moon shape?
That'd be terrifying. He's like... Do you think all these boomerangs look like little moons?
Yes, 100% little crescent moons.
In addition to English, Spectre is fluent in Arabic and has demonstrated proficiency in both the Egyptian and Sudanese dialects. Pain resistant, insanity, torture, spiritually gifted, or simply numb from all the years of damage to his body, Moon Knight has an incredibly strong threshold for pain. And then we have weaknesses. Mental illness. It has been stated that Moon Knight suffers from a madness so powerful it can only be described as magic. No. It can be described as a mental illness that probably needs to be treated with a lot of drugs. Will media ever stop portraying mental illness as a superpower? Like, one of the most famous Marvel heroes, like the Hulk, just has weaponized PTSD. So while it was initially believed that Mark suffered from dissociative identity disorder, it was determined that the different personas he has developed throughout his life are consequences of having become Khonshu's avatar. Khonshu is said to have 4 aspects: the Pathfinder, the Embracer, the Defender, and the Watcher of Overnight Travelers. Spectre cycles through these aspects and his brain applies identities to them in order to explain them. In essence, his mind has been colonized by the god. Does that mean as well, because it says here that his mental illness has allowed him to develop a coping mechanism of sorts, that the god actively sought out a mentally ill person to become their avatar because they could better utilize them as a weapon to hurt people? At which point, don't worship that god. That god sounds terrifying. That god sucks ass. That's a low tier god right there. Do not support that god. All about Thor. Thor won't do that. And then, would you like to know some trivia?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, Moon Knight is Jewish, but non-practicing. When asked by Solomon Kane if he was a Christian or a heathen, he joked that he was pagan-Christian compatible. He is combined with Spider-Man to become the amalgamation Arachnite in the comic Infinity Wars. So, insane Spider-Man with moon powers.
I mean, Moon Spider-Man sounds pretty fucking cool.
Yes. But then again, mentally ill Spider-Man who doesn't care about hurting people is terrifying.
That is terrifying.
It'd be very easy to rip off faces. And it says here that during Damnation, Moon Knight was seemingly able to lift Mjolnir before Thor called it back. The co-writer of that comic, Donny Cates, cleared the confusion for that Moon Knight was not worthy of Mjolnir, that the hammer was just returning to Thor as he grabbed it.
Right.
Just, whoa!
Just please, Moon Knight, let go.
No, this is sick. I hope he just sat, like, he put his feet on it and rode it like a fucking surfboard.
Oh, God.
And then just did like a 360 no-scope on like a nearby criminal and then started carving just fucking giant crescents into everyone's forehead.
Do you reckon he has like a stencil?
Nah, I bet he freehands it.
Freehands it?
He freehands that shit. Absolutely 100%. Either that or he has like a spirograph.
Oh, no.
Just spirographing on people's forehead. It's like, hold still. It's only going to take 10 minutes. Oh. But he does it like a biro, so it takes like all day.
Not even a knife.
Yeah, do you like when you've got to like grind a biro into the page when it's got no ink left in it?
And it like rips through the paper.
Yeah, it's like that but with your forehead. And you know what that does? That teaches people not to commit crimes because that guy might be out there. That's the thing, it's like you sat there being a criminal, doing your criminal things, and you're like, should we go out and rob a place tonight? It's like, well, the street with the shop on it that you want to rob is in the territory of the Punisher, Daredevil, Moon Knight, Spider-Man, and about 40 other people. And about 3/4 of them will brutally beat us and leave us bleeding to death in an alleyway. And at least one of them will carve like a mark on our forehead that will immediately have us beaten up by every criminal we know. Let's just torrent movies instead.